Here are 10 90s movies you've probably never heard about, but every single one of them is better than most Oscar winners you've actually seen. I know you think these lists are all the same, but when's the last time you saw a 90s list with Owen Wilson as a serial killer? Sandra Bullock in the net is basically dealing with every nightmare about technology that people had in 1995. Someone erases her entire identity online and suddenly she doesn't exist anymore. Nobody believes who she says she is. Her life is just gone. Looking at it now, the net basically called what was coming: identity theft, online privacy getting demolished, digital manipulation. All the stuff this movie was worried about actually happened. You can see pieces of it that the Wachowskis borrowed for The Matrix a few years later. It's aged into this nostalgic but weirdly relevant thing because the paranoia it was selling in 1995 is just reality now. If you haven't watched it since the 90s, it's worth another look. Holds up better than you'd expect. Sidney Lumet put out 2 cop movies in 1990. Prince of the City is the one everyone talks about, but there was this other one called Q&A that came out the same year, and honestly, it's the better movie. Nobody seems to remember it exists. The whole thing is about this assistant DA who gets assigned to investigate a shooting, and the deeper he digs, the more he realizes the NYPD is rotten all the way through. Nick Nolte's in it, and Timothy Hutton, and they're not doing that theatrical cop movie thing. They just feel like guys who've been living with bad decisions for a long time. What gets me about Q&A is how efficient it is. Prince of the City kind of sprawls and meanders, which works for that story, but Q&A just keeps moving and never lets up. If you're into police corruption movies and you've somehow missed this one, track it down. Ken Loach made this thriller about the Troubles in Northern Ireland, specifically about the British government doing some pretty fucked up things and then covering it up, which probably explains why almost nobody in Britain has heard of it. There's a cop, played by Brian Cox, who starts investigating what looks like a straightforward case, and it turns into this massive web of lies and official cover-ups. But Loach doesn't handle it like a normal thriller where everything gets exposed and the good guys win. He made this in 1990 when the conflict was still happening. There's no tidy resolution because there wasn't one in real life. Most thrillers from that era wanted to send you home feeling satisfied. Hidden Agenda gives you Cox trying to do the right thing in a situation where doing the right thing might not actually matter. He keeps uncovering worse and worse things, and the movie keeps refusing to give you that moment of catharsis. If you've ever played Grand Theft Auto Vice City and thought this would make a good movie, well, someone kinda made that in 1990 before the game existed. Miami Blues has Alec Baldwin playing a psychopath who's running around Florida committing crimes, and the movie keeps switching between being funny and being genuinely disturbing, sometimes within the same scene. A lot of people didn't know what to make of it. Baldwin's character is charming and likable right up until he does something horrible, and then he's back to being charming again. The movie never commits to being a comedy or a thriller, it just bounces between both, and that tonal whiplash is intentional. The whole thing takes place in this bright, sunny Florida that feels completely at odds with how dark the story gets. It's filmed like a tourism commercial for Miami, but the actual content is this sociopath causing chaos. Joe Pesci doing a 1940s noir sounds like a joke setup, right? Except he actually did it in 1992 and almost nobody saw it. The movie came and went so fast it barely registered. People compare it to LA Confidential, which came out 5 years later and is the better movie. But the public eye does something that stuck with me. Pesci's character is a photographer and he's not the hero type. He's kind of an asshole actually. He's obsessed with getting the perfect shot, documenting truth through his camera, even when it costs him. But watching this flawed, difficult guy try to do the right thing anyway, that's what makes it compelling. There's no romance in this noir. Everyone's got murky motives, the past keeps bleeding into the present, and nothing wraps up cleanly. Franklin just lets it exist in that moral gray zone without trying to clean it up for the audience. Barry Levinson got Michael Douglas and Demi Moore together for Disclosure in 1994, and it's a workplace thriller about sexual harassment that flips the usual dynamics. Michael Crichton produced it from his own novel that came out the same year. It's dealing with office politics and power and betrayal in ways that feel sharp, and it's also accidentally this perfect snapshot of 90s tech paranoia. What worked for me is how tense it stays. Douglas and Moore are just tearing into each other while trying to keep up corporate appearances, and you're on edge the whole time. For a Crichton adaptation, and there's a bunch of those, this one holds up better than people remember. It's doing interesting things with gender and power that most thrillers wouldn't touch back then. Kiefer Sutherland is so convincingly abusive in Breakup that it probably hurt the movie. People just didn't want to watch it. Sutherland plays this boyfriend who's charming and then controlling and then violent. And the movie doesn't turn it into a thriller with big dramatic moments. It just shows you what that abusive relationship looks like. The thing is, in 1998, nobody really knew what to do with a domestic violence movie that wasn't trying to be entertaining. It wasn't a slasher, it wasn't action, it was just uncomfortable and ugly. So people just basically ignored it. 2 years earlier, Sutherland had played a serial killer in Freeway, and he was terrifying in that too. But this feels different because it's grounded in something that actually happens. It's not some over-the-top psycho, it's just a guy who's abusive, and that's somehow worse. Clive Owen was working in British television in the late 90s, doing fine but not really breaking through. Then Mike Hodges cast him in Croupier as this casino dealer who's also writing a book about casino life, and Owen gave the kind of performance that should have made him a star immediately, except almost nobody saw it. But it's probably one of the best things to come out of Britain in the 90s. Hodges had made Get Carter back in the 70s, so he knew how to shoot a crime movie. But Croupier isn't interested in action or heists or any of that. It's about watching this guy slowly compromise himself while telling himself he's just observing. The whole thing has a voiceover where Owen's character is narrating what he's writing in his book. And normally that would kill a movie. But here it works because you need to hear how he's justifying everything to himself. Route 9 was made for TV, which usually means you're getting something cheap and forgettable. But somehow everyone involved in this decided they were going to make it like a real movie anyway. Kyle MacLachlan, who'd spent the 90s doing Twin Peaks, plays this small-town cop. There's a setup you've definitely seen before. Cops find money from a drug deal, have to decide whether to take it. Things spiral from there. Nothing new about the plot. But MacLachlan plays it like he's in a legitimate crime drama, not a TV movie, and that elevates everything. Most of it happens on this empty highway, and director David McKay keeps it grounded and focused. Other people would have made this hysterical and overblown. McKay just lets the tension come from watching these guys make worse and worse choices while convincing themselves they're still good people. It's small, yeah, but that's why it works. Route 9 knows exactly what it is and doesn't try to be bigger than that. Owen Wilson playing a serial killer sounds like either a joke or the worst casting decision ever made, and then you watch The Minus Man and realize he's actually perfect for it. This came out in 1999 and barely anyone saw it. Wilson was still mostly known for doing comedies with Wes Anderson and the Farrelly brothers, so the idea of him as this quiet, polite guy who kills people seemed ridiculous. But he's genuinely unsettling in this. There's no winking at the camera. He just plays this eerily calm person moving through the world, and every so often someone dies. The movie doesn't show you gore or violence. It's not trying to entertain you with kills. It's all implication. And that's what makes it disturbing.